me speak to the heart of someone who has been waiting, wondering, and perhaps even weeping in silence. You've been faithful, yet overlooked. You've served quietly, yet been forgotten. You've carried a promise deep in your spirit, but life seems to have placed you in a pit rather than a palace. You ask yourself, did I hear God correctly? Was the vision real? If He called me, why am I stuck? Why the delay? I came to tell you today, not as a motivator, but as a voice of purpose, that your delay was not a mistake. Your detour was not random. Your hidden season was not wasted. In fact, it was part of a divine design. Heaven doesn't operate on earthly timelines. God doesn't rush destiny. He builds it brick by brick, layer by layer, until it is strong enough to stand the weight of the purpose He has placed inside you. We live in a world that values instant results, but in the kingdom, process is the prerequisite for promotion. And no one embodies that truth more profoundly than Joseph, the dreamer who endured betrayal, slavery, false accusations, and prison before stepping into his assignment. His life is a masterclass in how God turns delay into destiny and pain into purpose. So before you give up, before you question your worth, before you abandon the dream God gave you, lean in. Because what looked like a setback was actually a setup. What felt like rejection was divine redirection. And the very delay you've been despising is about to become the door God uses to launch you. Let us now walk through the divine pattern through Joseph's life and your own, and discover why your delay was not denial, it was destiny in disguise. Delay is not denial, it's divine preparation. Many of us misunderstand the quiet seasons in our lives. We think silence means God has forgotten us. We assume delay means rejection. But in the kingdom of God, delay is often the signature of preparation. Heaven does not rush what it intends to rain. You are not being punished, you are being positioned. What looks like stagnation is the soil where divine strategies are planted. What feels like rejection is often God's redirection to a greater calling that your mind cannot yet conceive. Joseph understood this in a way most of us overlook. Here was a young man given a divine dream, a revelation of his future, a vision of honor, a glimpse of dominion. But shortly after that dream came betrayal, abandonment, slavery, false accusation, and prison. Imagine the emotional weight of going from favor in your father's house to rejection by your own brothers. From a multicolored robe to chains, from being a dreamer to being forgotten. The average person would have given up. Many would have said, God has left me. But Joseph's life teaches us something powerful. The presence of adversity does not cancel the presence of God. In fact, sometimes adversity is the classroom of destiny. When God has placed a calling on your life, He often allows hidden seasons to shape your character before He unveils your platform. Because if your gift gets there before your character does, your fall will be public. That's why God hides you, not to reject you, but to refine you. You cannot reign over people if you are still bound by the need for validation. You cannot lead if you are still wounded by offense. Joseph had to learn leadership in the pit before he could be trusted in the palace. He had to learn how to interpret the dreams of others before his own dream would come to pass. That is the pattern of heaven. Service before significance. Process before promotion. Humility before honor. Look at the pit. What seemed like a grave was actually the first step to glory. His brothers thought they buried him, but in reality they planted him. And anything that is planted must grow. In the pit, Joseph was stripped of his comfort, his identity, and his control. But it was in that place of helplessness that God began to shape him for what was coming. The pit taught him to depend on God when family fails. The pit taught him to trust the vision, even when his surroundings contradicted it. Then came slavery in Potiphar's house, another test, another phase of preparation. Joseph didn't sit in self-pity, he served with excellence. He carried himself like a man of vision, even when he was treated like a servant. Why? Because identity in God is not dependent on location, it's rooted in revelation. Joseph never lost sight of who he was. Even in a foreign place, he remained faithful. And that faithfulness was noticed not by men at first, but by heaven. God was watching how Joseph handled a lesser assignment before trusting him with greater influence. And just when things seemed to be improving, another delay came. A false accusation, a prison sentence. Yet again, the dream seemed to die, but Joseph didn't die with it. In the prison, God was not absent, he was present. The prison became a place of stewardship, favor, and development. Joseph learned to manage not just his own pain, but the pain of others. He became a leader in confinement, a servant in limitation, and an interpreter of dreams in darkness. It was in the prison that his gift matured, not because of applause, but because of assignment. The gift God gave him didn't need a stage, it needed obedience. What you must realize is that God will often allow the process to strip you of everything superficial, so what remains is pure purpose. That's why delay is divine. That's why you must not despise the hidden seasons. God hides his greatest treasures. The world didn't know who Joseph was, but heaven did. The prison didn't define him, it refined him. Every delay was adding weight to his destiny. Every disappointment was deepening his dependency on God. Every betrayal was building his backbone. Every silence was stretching his spirit to listen more intently to the voice of God. Your gift will make room for you, but only when the room is ready. This is one of the most misunderstood principles in the journey of purpose. We often believe that once we discover our gift, it should immediately usher us into greatness. But in the kingdom, timing is as important as calling. God does not simply release a gift. He prepares an environment where that gift will be received, respected, and released into its full potential. Until that environment is ready, God keeps you hidden, not because you are unworthy, but because premature exposure can destroy what divine timing is meant to protect. Joseph didn't force doors open. He didn't beg for opportunities. He didn't chase positions. He carried his gift with integrity and allowed God to create the space for it to flourish. He served in obscurity. He interpreted dreams in prison, not for fame, but because it was in him to serve. There was no spotlight, no social validation, no applause, just faithful stewardship of the gift. And when the right moment came, when Pharaoh had a dream no man could interpret, Joseph's gift was summoned. Notice, Joseph didn't push himself into the palace. His gift pulled him in. Because when your capacity has been cultivated and your character has been tested, your moment will come without striving. God knows how to send a need that matches your gift, but He waits until both are in alignment. You may be ready in your heart, but the room may still be in preparation. Pharaoh had not yet dreamed. Egypt had not yet entered crisis. The nation had not yet reached the moment where your voice would be necessary. So God hides you until history demands you. That's divine strategy. You're not overlooked, you're preserved. You're not late. You're protected from premature assignment. Joseph didn't hand out resumes. He didn't protest his unfair treatment. He didn't try to manipulate his way out of prison. He simply remained faithful where he was. And God used the need of a nation to promote the one He had prepared. The same God is working behind the scenes in your life. He is aligning circumstances, stirring needs, opening doors, and preparing the platform. But He won't release you until the room is ready. The right room will not just see your gift, they will honor it. They will pull from it. They will need it. That's when promotion becomes purpose-driven. Stop trying to announce yourself. Heaven already has your schedule. Your gift doesn't need marketing. It needs maturity. It needs moments in the secret place. It needs you to remain faithful even when no one sees. Your gift is not just for influence, it's for impact. And impact only happens when your preparation meets divine timing. So trust the delay, grow in silence, serve without seeking validation, because when the room is finally ready, your gift will speak for you. Your name will be mentioned in rooms you've never entered. Your voice will be requested by people you've never met. And your past will become your resume, not because of perfection, but because of preparation. God uses isolation to birth revelation. Some of the deepest truths, the most powerful transformations, and the clearest directions come not in the crowd, but in the cave. Not in applause, but in abandonment. Isolation is not a punishment. It is a divine classroom. God often removes the noise so you can finally hear His voice. He separates you from the familiar to introduce you to the eternal. The people who once celebrated you may now ignore you, but that's part of the process. Rejection by man often precedes promotion by God. Look at Joseph. Before he could wear Pharaoh's robe of authority, he had to lose the coat of many colors. That coat, a symbol of his father's favor, was stripped from him. Why? Because it represented identity given by man, not the destiny appointed by God. The coat was beautiful, but it was limited. It marked him as special in his family, but not yet ready for the world. That garment had to be removed for him to grow beyond the walls of his father's house. Sometimes God has to strip you of what others gave you so He can clothe you with what He destined for you. Joseph's identity had to be redefined in isolation. In the pit, he was no longer the favored son. In Potiphar's house, he was a servant. In prison, he was a forgotten inmate. But through every phase, something greater was happening. His true identity was being formed, not based on how people saw him, but on how God saw him. He had to lose the identity of favoritism to gain the identity of a leader. He had to outgrow the season of being known for a coat and become known for his character. Some of the most important growth happens when nobody's watching. That's when God deals with your motives. He cuts away pride. He exposes the need for approval. He digs into the places you've hidden beneath talent and charisma. In isolation, you can no longer perform. You must become. That's where revelation is born. God shows you who you are and who He is, apart from titles, positions, or praise. That's where you gain the wisdom that crowds cannot teach you, and the intimacy that public success can never offer. You must outgrow the season you're in to step into the one prepared for you. And outgrowing something means shedding the things that no longer fit. Old mindsets, childish thinking, broken identities, and surface-level faith. God uses isolation to stretch your capacity, deepen your vision, and upgrade your understanding. What was enough in your last season will hinder you in your next. The coat that fit you in the Father's house will restrict you in Pharaoh's palace. So embrace the quiet places. Embrace the hidden seasons. Don't resent being set apart. Rejoice in it. Because isolation in the kingdom is often a sign that God is getting ready to reveal something extraordinary. He's not punishing you. He's protecting your process. And when He's finished, you won't just come out informed, you'll come out transformed. You will walk differently, speak differently, lead differently, because you'll no longer be the person shaped by the crowd, you'll be the person shaped by the King. Vindication is a kingdom strategy, not personal revenge. In our humanity, we often crave vindication as a means to silence critics, prove doubters wrong, or repay those who hurt us. But in the mind of God, vindication is never about settling personal scores. It's about fulfilling divine purpose. God does not elevate you to inflate your ego. He elevates you to expand His kingdom. When He lifts you, it's not to boast in front of your enemies. It's to become a vessel through which His glory is revealed. Look at Joseph. His rise to power wasn't a reward for enduring pain. It was a divine placement for prophetic fulfillment. When Pharaoh placed the ring on Joseph's finger, when the royal robe was wrapped around him, and when the chariot carried him through the streets of Egypt, it wasn't to show his brothers they were wrong. It was to position him for something far greater, the preservation of nations. The famine was coming. Egypt needed strategy. Israel needed a savior. The world needed a deliverer. And God had already prepared one, in the very person who was once thrown in a pit, sold into slavery, and forgotten in prison. That is how the kingdom works. Vindication is not about showing who is right or wrong. It's about revealing who God is. He uses your life as a signpost. He takes your pain and turns it into purpose. He takes the very thing your enemies thought would destroy you and uses it to deliver others. Joseph's vindication was not about proving his brothers wrong. It was about becoming the bridge that would save them. It was about becoming the bridge that would save them. That's kingdom thinking. That's heaven's strategy. You see, God will not vindicate you to serve your emotions. He will vindicate you to serve His agenda. That's why your heart must be pure before elevation comes. If Joseph had harbored bitterness, he could have used his position to retaliate, but instead he used it to restore. He embraced the very brothers who betrayed him. Why? Because by the time God had vindicated him, Joseph understood this was never about him. It was always about the dream, a dream not just for himself, but for a people. A promise not just for his family, but for the future. Your story is not over, and your vindication is coming. But it won't come to prove how strong you are. It will come to reveal how sovereign God is. Your platform is not for payback. It's for purpose. Your testimony will not just inspire, it will rescue. People you don't even know will be impacted by what you endured in private. Nations will benefit from the battles you fought in silence. What you carry is bigger than revenge. It's bigger than recognition. It's redemption. Divine, strategic, heaven-ordained redemption. So let God fight the battles. Let Him handle the critics. Let Him write the final chapter. When He vindicates you, He will do it in such a way that no one can deny His hand was upon your life. Not because you were perfect, but because you were faithful. Not because you demanded justice, but because you trusted in His timing. And when it happens, you'll realize vindication is not the end. It's the beginning of your greatest assignment. The palace comes after you master the prison. In the kingdom of God, promotion is never random. It is the reward for preparation, character, and proven stewardship under pressure. God does not hand authority to those who simply desire it. He entrusts it to those who have endured adversity without compromising their integrity. You cannot govern a nation until you have first learned to govern your own spirit. And you cannot carry the weight of public responsibility until you've been trained in private responsibility. Joseph's leadership training didn't begin in Pharaoh's court. It began in prison. Think about that. He didn't arrive at the palace because of ambition or connections. He got there because he had been faithful in the most unlikely place. The prison was his proving ground. It was there he learned how to manage people, solve problems, handle injustice, and remain faithful when forgotten. While others saw confinement, heaven saw development. The prison was not a punishment. It was a platform for growth. And Joseph didn't wait to be promoted to act like a leader. He ruled in chains so he could be trusted with a crown. That's how God prepares leaders. He doesn't look at your charisma, he looks at your character. He watches how you respond when life doesn't make sense, when you've been wronged, when you've been overlooked, when you've been surrounded by darkness but still choose to shine with integrity. That's when heaven takes notice. God asks, can you be faithful when you feel forgotten? Can you serve others when you yourself are still waiting on deliverance? Can you steward the prison like it's a palace? Many people want the palace but reject the prison. They want the influence without the discipline, the platform without the pruning. But in the kingdom, authority flows from authenticity, and authenticity is forged in adversity. Joseph didn't fake leadership, he lived it. He didn't need a title to be excellent. He didn't need recognition to be responsible. He ruled well in obscurity. And that's why God could trust him with visibility. Because when you master the prison, the palace becomes a natural progression, not a fluke. Remember, the palace doesn't make you a ruler, it reveals the ruler you already are. Joseph was not transformed by the throne, he was already a leader when Pharaoh called him. That's the divine order. God elevates those who have already cultivated what the elevation requires. You must grow into your next level before you enter it. You don't rise to the occasion, you rise to the level of your preparation. So if you find yourself in a prison season, take heart. Your leadership is being forged. Your discipline is being refined. Your integrity is being tested. And your future is being shaped. Rule well where you are. Serve with excellence. Stay faithful. Because when you master the prison, heaven will open the door to the palace. Not because you chased it, but because you were ready for it. Your season of exposure is coming, but so is responsibility. It's easy to desire the platform, the influence, the recognition. But in the kingdom, exposure is never about applause. It's about assignment. When God brings you into visibility, it's not to elevate your name, it's to execute His will. Vindication is not just a moment of reward. It is the entrance into a realm of divine responsibility. Joseph's story didn't end when he stood before Pharaoh. It truly began. The dream he had as a teenager was not about his comfort, but about his calling. When Pharaoh gave Joseph authority over Egypt, it wasn't a trophy, it was a trust. A national famine was coming. People would starve. Decisions would carry weight. Strategy was essential. And God needed someone who had been prepared in obscurity to now operate in influence. That's why Joseph's promotion came with such great responsibility, because the palace was not for luxury, but for leadership. We often forget this. Your divine delay wasn't just to protect you, it was to prepare you. God could have removed Joseph from prison the day after he was thrown in, but He didn't. Why? Because the man who entered prison wasn't yet ready for the weight of governance. It took time to grow the soul, stretch the capacity, and deepen the faith required for the coming assignment. The same applies to you. What you perceive as delay is God's act of mercy, maturing you, shaping you, and anchoring you so that when you step into your moment, you will not crumble under its weight. Promotion in the kingdom is not a graduation. It's an invitation into greater service. With more influence comes more accountability. With greater visibility comes greater warfare. And with every open door comes a new level of stewardship. Joseph could no longer think like a boy with a dream. He had to think like a man with a mandate. He was now responsible not just for himself, but for nations. That's the reality of divine exposure. It multiplies your impact, but it also multiplies your responsibility. So as you wait for your season of exposure, don't just prepare your gift, prepare your heart. Build the discipline, develop the endurance, strengthen your prayer life. Learn the value of listening, because when God brings you into that place, you won't have time to learn what you should have mastered in the secret place. You will need to walk in wisdom, operate in excellence, and serve with humility. Exposure is not the goal, faithfulness is. Exposure is the reward for hidden obedience and the starting point of greater service. Let Joseph's story remind you, your dream may have been birthed in youth, but its fulfillment requires maturity. Your assignment may have been shown in part, but its manifestation demands the whole of you. Refined, tested, and surrendered. When God exposes you, it's not to show people who you are, it's to show people who He is through you. So don't fear the wait. Embrace the process, because when your season of exposure comes, you'll realize that every hidden battle, every silent tear, every lonely night was preparation for a purpose far greater than you imagined. And that purpose is now ready to unfold. Now hear me clearly. When God gives a vision, He is not obligated to fulfill it in your time, but He is committed to completing it in His. Delay does not mean denial, it means design. You were never being punished, you were being prepared. You were not being rejected, you were being refined. You were not forgotten, you were being formed in secret, so God could reveal you in power. Joseph's life is proof that the purpose of God cannot be destroyed by pits, prisons, or people. No betrayal can cancel the blueprint of heaven. No delay can erase divine destiny. When God marks your life with favor, He also assigns seasons of development. And when the time is right, He brings you out, not just for your benefit, but for the blessing of others. Your elevation is not for celebration, it is for impact. You are not being raised to be seen, you are being raised to serve. So now I declare to you, your delay was divine. Your pain had a purpose. Your process was sacred. And now the season of public vindication is upon you, not to prove your worth, but to manifest His glory. You will rise not by striving, but by the Spirit. You will be called, not because of connection, but because of covenant. Like Joseph, you will be remembered. You will be summoned. You will be trusted. But don't just prepare for the throne, prepare for the responsibility that comes with it. Because where God is taking you, your character must be heavier than your crown. Your obedience must be stronger than your title. Your vision must be rooted in purpose, not position. So walk boldly into your destiny. Stand tall in your calling. Lead with integrity. Serve with humility. Because when God lifts you, no one can bury you. When God speaks for you, no lie can silence you. And when God vindicates you, the same mouth that doubted you will testify on your behalf. Your delay was divine. Your destiny is inevitable. Get ready. The palace is calling.